A lot of people aren't aware of the fact that they used to cut little girls' genitals in the United States of America. And because I found out that I had been cut, I became very interested in the quality of life that I know is missing in my own life and also in the lives of many, many millions of men in this country. I didn't find out about my own circumcision until I already was an activist. I was talking with a young man who is a psychologist in Palo Alto at the VA center who works with post-traumatic stress. And he was talking in a certain way about women and about his mother and about, his job that made me wonder, why are men the way they are? And then this inside, just this intuition said, they've all been traumatized. And I was really puzzled by that. So then I said, traumatized? How? And then that same intuition said, circumcision. And circumcision had always been a word that was kind of scary for me, but I didn't even know what circumcision was at that point. So I went to my computer and I typed in circumcision, and then I saw this little baby's face and he was screaming and he was being circumcised. I said, oh my God, no wonder. No wonder there's so much evidence of post-traumatic stress among men, and why there's such a focus on sexuality, and why there's such a very strange focus on sexuality. Instead of just a natural part of life, there's all the pornography, there's need for heroic measures, to take care of men. It's like, why? What is all this about? Why isn't it just a sweet, natural part of life? And so that's how I began, and I became very angry at the fact that people were hurting little babies like that, and that men were so traumatized by it that then they would behave with me and other people in a way that didn't seem like it was very healthy. So I was concerned about that. Years later, after I'd already started writing a book, I was wondering how the anatomy worked, because I needed to write about that for the book. And someone on the intact list wrote in and said, well, the clitoris is just like it has a foreskin just like the penis does, and they work the same way. And I said, oh, great. I'll just look at my own body and I'll be able to, write my book, because it'll be similar to the male. So I did. I started looking at my own body, and it was very strange because I couldn't see anything there that might even vaguely resemble an erectile structure or a foreskin. I was just really puzzled, and so I wrote back to this guy. I said, tell me more, and we had an exchange, and finally I said, well, there's nothing there. I've looked at myself and there's nothing there. He said, that's impossible. I said, okay, I'll look again. And then I came back, there's nothing there. And then I started looking on the internet for female genital mutilation, and there was a lot of information about that. About Africans, there were a few stories about women in the United States of America. And I put two and two together, and I thought, maybe this happened to me. And then I went to see a doctor, and he said, oh no, you have a clitoris. You just have a teeny, teeny, tiny, little bitty, itsy bitsy, teeny weeny. He was a foreign doctor. And, you have a clitoris. It's just microscopic little clitoris, I said, okay. So I went back home, and he said that he would call me because he was getting some equipment in that would be, able to take a microscopic view of the area. I said, fine. He never did call me, but I found a microscope at the computer store that hooked up to my computer that I could see subcutaneously, and I could see underneath the surface layer of the shiny mucosal tissue, and I could see that yes, there was a very distinct V shape there, very geometric, not at all organic, you know. And then on either side of the little V shape, you know, you could see natural things come together, but on the other side they didn't match up. So it was obviously a cut. So that's how I found out about myself. And it was quite a shock to me, but it was also a relief because I had demonstrated similar post-traumatic stress symptoms that I had observed in men. And then I always blamed myself. I thought something was wrong with me because I was very angry or very depressed, you know, or whatever, you know. And then I found out, oh, just like with my clients, I found that there's a good reason for all this. When all the facts are known, everything makes perfect sense. So I was very relieved, actually, to find out that there was something behind it. And then I could really start working on releasing the fear that I had stored in my body. I think that what happened when I was a child radically affected my experience with my mother, my relationship with my mother, because when I think about it now, you know, my whole life long after school, you know, I became a student. My whole life long, after I was about 6 or 7, I totally hated my mother, and I didn't know why. And looking at it now, I look back and I think she wasn't that bad, you know. But realizing that that little girl was carrying that anger from that insult and that injury, from that betrayal, you know, of having been cut. And then, you know, maybe if it just happened and it was over like that, it would have been nothing. But my memories of it are always of the recovery stage, where I'm in my bed just grieving and grieving and grieving, just from the deepest part of my guts. You know, it just hurts so bad. And I think a big part of that, there's the physical, of course, but then there's another part of it, which is this incredible sense of betrayal. How could she have done this to me? How could she say she loves me and do this to me? Nobody loves me. You know, and it was just that kind of litany that I would just keep saying over and over to myself. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares. Nobody, you know. And so I imagine myself, having worked with people in past lives and also in their early childhood development, you know, doing regression therapy, that the child does not just take it in stride, you know. Even if they're just 1 day old, that child is making decisions right and left. What happened? Oh, this is such a harsh, difficult, violent place to live. I better take care of myself. I better defend myself, or I'd better get really tough and strong, and so I can defend myself like that. Or I think I'll withdraw and I'll just disappear so nobody will ever hurt me again. You know, so I can see a child going through all these different things. And some children will choose one, and some will choose another, and some will do a variety. You know, they'll do a combination of them. So it really grieves me to think that there's so many people who could be carrying this trauma with them. So my focal point really is on helping people release the trauma, and seeing things differently, seeing things from a higher perspective. Once we release ourselves from all the fear and get relief from all the trauma, then we can really be of service. And we can really help ourselves heal, and we can help each other heal. Because there's a lot of healing that needs to happen.